How's it going, my dreamers? This is Born to Dream here with another raid boss guide for you guys. And I haven't been doing a lot of these raid boss guides recently. I apologize, but it was either I wasn't interested in doing a raid boss guide on the raid boss in question, or I just didn't get to it. So yeah, that's why you guys haven't seen any raid boss guides for a couple months. Plus, I've been having computer issues and blah 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 blah. Anyways, the reason why you guys are watching this raid boss guide is you want to know more about Alolan Raichu. And first of all, Alolan Raichu has a dope shiny that I wish we could get into Go. They even have it in the Pokedex, but you can't get shiny Alolan Raichu yet, so that's kind of sad. I have a shiny Pikachu saved up for this thing, but you can't get it yet, so you can only get the original. But aside from that, Alolan Raichu is a pretty cool Pokemon, and a lot of you guys are probably watching this because A, you don't have an Alolan Raichu yet, and you want to learn how to get an Alolan Raichu, or B, you want to get more of these things, and there's nothing wrong with getting a lot of these Alolan Raichus, because I do think they look pretty cool. Along with Alolan Marowak, I would definitely recommend doing those raid bosses right now, especially since we don't really have a legendary raid boss at the moment. So yeah, we don't. There's no legendary raid boss at the moment. So you guys should be, if you guys want to spend raid bosses, you guys can spend it on this here. Okay, I'm trying to trigger, but fuck that. So, anyways, comparing Alolan Raichu here to its counterpart Raichu, you guys can see that it does have a psychic typing, and with Alolan Pokemon, generally speaking, Alolan Pokemon don't have that different of stats between their Cantonian counterparts, but usually the typing is different for just about every single Alolan variant. Even Alolan Dugtrio is a ground steel type, and it doesn't really look like a steel type. I guess its hair is supposed to be steel, but it's not. It doesn't look like a steel type, but it's a ground steel type. So, but you'll see that the stats here are a little different. I think Alolan Raichu is one of those that like changes statistically, but generally speaking, their stats really aren't that different. So Raichu and Alolan Raichu are going to be about the same stat-wise. What makes them different is their typing. And I need to go back because I can't hit back on my keyboard, so that's very awkward. So yeah, so they have different typing. So, but as you guys can see, Alolan Raichu does have a pretty decent attack stat, pretty decent defense stat. Stamina is whatever, because all raid bosses have 3,000 stamina, so we're not really worried about that right now. It's just the defense and the attack. I think Alolan Raichu, I'd say it's like average for a raid boss, honestly. I don't think Alolan Raichu is the most difficult raid boss in the world, but I also think that you might struggle a little bit against it if you don't have the right counters to it. It's not like, let's say, Porygon, where you could literally roll up to it and just, like, use whatever your best stuff is, you just use it against a Porygon and boom, you win. It's not like that. You do need some decent counters for Alolan Raichu. So, moving on to the moveset here. So, we got Spark Wild Charge, Spark Thunder Punch, Volt Switch, Wild Charge, Spark Psychic, Volt Switch, Thunder Punch, and Volt Switch, Psychic. So, going into the moves here, if you guys know anything about electric types, you would know that Wild Charge is by far the best electric type move in the game. And Alolan Raichu gets it. And it's a difficult moveset. It is a difficult moveset, but, I mean, like I said before, if you have the right stuff, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Psychic is going to be the easiest Because if you have some Tyrannitars from Community Day, you can literally just throw in like 2 or 3 Tyrannitars and be okay. Like, it's really, really not that difficult with Psychic. It's just Thunder Punch and Wild Charge are a little more difficult for Raichu. So, it basically says all that here. So, yeah, you guys can see the damage that does. Volt Switch defensively is actually one of the best defensive moves as well, generally speaking, because it does do a lot of damage. And I mean, you're not when a Pokemon's on defense, they're not spamming it like on offense. They're usually just using one at a time. So yeah, so basically Volt Switch and Wild Charge are going to be the most difficult moveset to take on. So, and you guys can see the power that Wild Charge has. It's on par with Dynamic Punch from Machamp. It's pretty, just Dynamic Punch in general. We're not comparing Alolan Raichu to Machamp, but we're just saying that Wild Charge is as good as Dynamic Punch. So, looking at Raichu's weaknesses here, Alolan Raichu does have a decent amount of weaknesses that you can take advantage of. You can use bug types, so Scizor and Pinsir work. Not so much Heracross because, well, Heracross is a fighting type, and you probably don't want to send Heracross out on a Psychic Alolan Raichu, so maybe stay away from Heracross. But Pinsir and Scizor work. You got some Dark types here. So just about any Dark type, in all honesty, you could use. So like Tyranitar, you can use Houndoom, you can use Absol if you have one powered up. I'd probably not say Umbreon because Umbreon's kind of bad. But just about any Dark type works against Raichu, especially if it has Psychic. That's definitely the Pokemon of choice. And then you got ground types here, so Groudon immediately jumps off the page. I mean, you could use like Golem with Mud Slap, Earthquake, or if you're lucky, Mud Shot, Earthquake. I mean, there's other ground types that I'm just not thinking of. Probably not Rhydon because, well, Rhydon doesn't get a really good... Well, it gets Mud Slap. I guess you could use Rhydon, but I'm not a fan of Rhydon, so... I don't know if there's any other ground types that I might be missing. Well, we'll see if I'm missing any when we get to the actual counters. And then ghost types. So you can use Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball, Gengar. I mean, if you don't have that, you can use Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball, Banette too. That's fine. Banette just does a little less damage than Gengar, but if you're going up against Psychic, it'd be kind of nice for Banette because Banette is not weak to Psychic. So that might be why you might opt for Banette over Gengar. But, I mean, you could use your same Alakazam team. If you have an Alakazam team, you can use that against Alolan Raichu and you'd be just fine. I mean, if you don't have that, then, I mean, get some T-Tars and maybe if you have some leftover Groudons, power them up. I don't know. But, I mean, generally speaking, you can use your Alakazam team to take down Alolan Raichu because they're both Psychic types. So, it's just Alolan Raichu doesn't cover its weaknesses as well as Alakazam did with Focus Blast. But, anyways, if you're looking for the perfect CP for Alolan Raichu, I gotta keep in mind that this is a 0% Alolan Raichu and not a, 66%. So I don't know what the 66% is. If you get a 10-10-10 Raichu, transfer it. But if you're looking for a perfect Raichu, 1224 would be the number you are looking for. And I actually do get pretty close to this number in the guide. You guys will see that when we get to the battles. But if you're looking for a weather boosted Raichu, so we're talking rainy, we're talking windy weather, 1531 would be the perfect IVUs for a wind boosted or a rain boosted Alolan Raichu. So, and then its max CP is like 2143. Not too bad, I guess. I don't know if you could max out an Alolan Raichu just because, you know, it's a cool Pokemon, but I wouldn't recommend it. So, let's go ahead and jump into the counters. And here are your counters. So, the supreme Pokemon of choice are going to be Mewtwo with either Psycho Cut or Confusion and Shadow Ball. You can just spam Shadow Balls at Alolan Raichu, so that makes sense. Tyranitar with Bite Crunch. Stay away from Smackdown or Stone Edge, please, because it's not super effective against Alolan Raichu. Just try to get as many Bite Crunch Tyranitars as you can, if that's the way you want to go. Gengar works here too. Shadow Claw, Hex, and Shadow Ball. You can use Hex and Shadow Ball, that's fine, but just keep in mind that Gengar is pretty frail, so just keep that in mind. You're probably going to want to dodge a little bit with Gengar if you are using Gengar. And then your good counters, you got Houndoom here, you got Rayquaza, you got Absol, you got Pinsir, you got Groudon, and you got Golem. Interestingly enough, Scizor is not on the list. Is there a reason for that? Is there a reason why Scizor is not on the list? Where's Pinsir in this? Oh, Pinsir's right above it. Okay. I mean, you could use Scizor against Psychic. I don't see any problem with that. That's perfectly fine, on all honesty. But you can see Gengar is king here, but Gengar will still take a bit of damage. Alolan Raichu isn't like the strongest Pokemon in the world, but it'll still hurt Gengar a little bit. And then you got stuff like Banette here, and I think Cacturne, I guess. I don't know about Cacturne. You know what? Cacturne works because Cacturne is a grass dark type, so it actually perfectly counters Alolan Raichu. So, yeah. So, that's basically all the counters there, as you guys can see. And, yeah. So, let's go ahead and let's talk about what weather you should be fighting Alolan Raichu in. So, if you want to take on Alolan Raichu, the most ideal weather for you would probably be either clear or, let's see, what else? Rain, I guess, kind of works, but I wouldn't recommend that. Or foggy weather. So, basically, clear or foggy weather are the two weathers that you want to fight a Alolan Raichu in, because you can use ground types here, and you can use dark and ghost types here. So you can take advantage of Raichu's weaknesses. The ones that are kind of neutral are partly cloudy weather, and partly cloudy and cloudy weather, and I guess snowy weather too. So these three work. And then the weather you probably want to avoid Alolan Raichu in, if you are just starting to take on Alolan Raichu, probably want to avoid rain, and you probably want to avoid windy weather. Although, if the Raichu doesn't have Psychic, windy weather isn't a problem. And you actually get a weather-boosted Alolan Raichu, and you don't have to take Psychic damage from it, which is kind of nice. But, basically, you might want to avoid these two if you're just starting to solo Alolan Raichu. So, that about does it for the Game Press part of the Alolan Raichu Raid Boss Guide. I will go ahead and jump into the battles right now. Alright, so first of all, we have Psychic Alolan Raichu. And as I said before, this is the easiest Raichu to take on because it's just simply because you can use your Tyranitars against it. That's the short way of saying this, but as you guys can see, I did bring the Alakazam team that I had. You guys can see like my Alakazam Raid Boss Guide if you want to verify that. But this is basically what I use for Alakazam, so I'm using it here for Gengar. One thing I will say is usually in my Raid Boss Guides, I try to avoid legendaries if I can help it, and that is the case for Alolan Raichu. I did stay away from legendaries in this guide because, not everybody has a team full of maxed out Groudons and Rayquazas. So, it'd probably be a good idea to not use one of those because not everybody has even one Groudon or Rayquaza. So, but as you can see, I'm using the Gengar here. If you don't have Shadow Club, Shadow Ball, Gengar, Banette works beautifully here. Because Banette can easily take the Psychic if you dodge it. Unlike the Gengar there, I didn't dodge, but if you dodge with Banette, you should be able to take some Psychic damage and then, you know, fire off a Shadow Ball. It works beautifully against Alolan Raichu. As I said before, you can use Houndoom, you can use Absol if you have an Absol powered up for whatever reason. You can use that. Just basically any Dark type works here. Keep in mind though, Volt Switch does do a bit of damage if you're going up against Volt Switch. So keep that in mind if you are going to solo and Alolan Raichu. Both Spark and Volt Switch do a bit of damage. So I'm going in with the T-Tar now. Honestly, I could have started out with T-Tar and, you know, I mean, I would have been fine. As you guys can see, I just now got taken out with that T-Tar, but I was doing a lot of damage with that T-Tar. And then this one's more than likely going to survive against this Psychic Alolan Raichu. By the way, look how like it freaking surfs on its little tail. It's so freaking cool. I love it. It's got to be one of the coolest Alolan Pokemon. It's between Alolan Raichu and Alolan Marowak. They made the right choices making these two raid bosses. So I got this with 40 seconds. You guys, if you're using Dark types, you guys may not get it with 40 seconds, but you guys should be able to solo this version of Alolan Raichu. It's the other versions that are a little more difficult, and you might need to have better counters for those. So. Alright, so next up we do have Thunder Punch, Alolan Raichu. As you guys can see, I have the Groudon there, but you guys won't see the Groudon in this battle. It's literally just there just in case I need it, but I won't need it in this. Also, by the way, I should mention that the sound does cut out in this clip. Don't know why I did it, but it did it. So, shit. But anyways, we have Thunder Punch Alolan Raichu. Now, the thing about Thunder Punch is I feel like it's a little slow. It felt really slow during the battle, and I'm kind of watching right now to see just how slow it is. It just felt really slow in the battle. Maybe it was just because of my phone lighting or whatever, but using the Gengars again, Banette works great here. You want to sort of use ground types against these last two if you can help it. I don't necessarily have good ground types powered up that isn't Groudon. So, I mean, I have Golems, but they all have Rock Throw, Stone Edge. And I didn't feel like going through all my Golems and just seeing which one had like Mud Slap, Earthquake. I don't think it's the best moveset anyways, but there is a little bit of freezing, unfortunately. So, going in with the T-Tar again, using the Bite Crunch set. You know, I pretty much mentioned everything that you can use. You can use like Groudon, you can use Rhydon, you can use Golem. I can't really think of any other ground types you can use. Game Prested, you can use Cacturne. You might be able to use Shiftry too, maybe, if you really want to go on a budget on it. I guess if you have a powered up Shiftry, go for it. But, yeah, so keep going for these crunches, keep going for the bites. Thunder Punch does kind of wear you down a little bit. I will say that. It wears you down a tiny bit. It's just like any other spammy move, sort of like Ancient Power from Omastar, if you guys remember that. It's kind of like that, where it's just constant Thunder Punches. but they really just don't do that much damage to you. So, and if anything, it's helping me because I'm getting these crunches off, and I'm doing more damage with crunch because it's spamming Thunder Punch so much, but it's not doing enough damage to where, you know, I don't need to, I just lost my thought because the sound went out, but anyways, I think we should be able to get this. Thunder Punch and Wild Charge are going to be a little harder, so you guys can see like the 17-second difference. Basically using the same team, it definitely makes a difference. And as you guys can see, I did get a 12-19 Raichu here, and if you guys remember, what was it, 12-23, I believe it is, was perfect. So this is a 97 or 98% Raichu with 14 attack, unfortunately. But still, that's pretty sweet to get something like this. I mean, get something like this, that's 98%. I absolutely love it. I mean, I might chase the hundo, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But anyways, got that Raichu. So we're going to move on to the next Raichu. Alright, so last but not least, we have Wild Charge Alolan Raichu, and I believe that Wild Charge Alolan Raichu is the hardest because it is a 2-bar move and it does do a bit of damage each time you take a Wild Charge. As you guys can see, I'm actually using Banette here, and you guys get to see Banette in action if you want to use Banette. And if you want to make it shiny, that's cool too. But you guys get to see Banette in action, and you know, doing its Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball thing. Banette won't do as much damage as Gengar, but it's a good replacement. And I wouldn't say you even need to max it out. I guess you might need to because you guys just saw how much that freaking Wild Charge did. It pretty much obliterated the Banette. So for comparison, you guys saw that how much Wild Charge did to that Gengar. So I guess Banette does lose a little bit in the bulk department, but and you guys can see how it's freaking spamming this thing too. It's just ridiculous. And yeah, so Alolan Raichu does have a little bit of attack, but I mean, I think in all honesty, if you can solo the other two movesets, you should be able to solo this one. But yeah, so going for the bite crunches and doing the damage here. I have seen people, you know, use Rayquaza against Alolan Raichu. It's an interesting choice. You know, and I guess Dragonite and Salamence too. Hell, I might even do an all Salamence raid for Alolan Raichu because I have a few of those. So I don't know, maybe, but that's completely off subject. But yeah, there really isn't much else to say about Alolan Raichu because its moveset really isn't that diverse, and that's one thing I noticed about all the new raid bosses this rotation, is they really don't have that diverse of a move pool. I'm used to, like, you know, Gengar with Focus Blast, and like Alakazam with Focus Blast, and Machamp with Heavy not so much Machamp with Heavy Slam, Piloswine with Stone Edge, that sort of thing, Azumarill with Ice Beam, you know, that sort of thing. So Alolan Raichu literally just has stab moves and that's it. And Flareon's got the same thing going for it. Donphan has a little bit of variation, but it's not really, it doesn't really help it. But I guess I lied. I did use a legendary. Whoops. But you guys can see I didn't really need this Groudon. So yeah, it wasn't necessary, but managed to take out the Alolan Raichu, and that about does it for the raid boss guide. So, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. In the next raid boss guide, we will be taking on either Flareon or Donphan. I don't have either ready yet. I definitely wanted to try to get Alolan Raichu up because I know it's a very popular raid boss, and I know a lot of people will want to know how to solo this thing. So I tried to get this up as quickly as I could. It does take a little bit of time to, you know, look for all these raids and then to get the exact moveset for each and every one of them. So, but I really do like making these raid boss guys, and I'll probably keep doing them for a very, very long time. So, anyways, I will see you guys in the next raid boss guide. It will either be Flareon or Donphan, whichever I get done first. So, I'll see you guys then. Keep living the dream. Goodbye.